Welcome to the Alain Elkann interviews, an unprecedented window into the minds of some of the most well-known and respected figures of the last 25 years.
Today we are interviewing an Italian artist, Bernardo Siciliano, who actually lives in New York, in Brooklyn, to be more precise. And he is now, in this very moment, in his studio in Brooklyn, surrounded by some of his latest paintings. Now, Bernardo, you started obviously in Italy to become a painter, very young, and you painted mainly portraits or Italian landscapes and Roman landscapes, buildings in Rome, streets. And then after a while, you moved to New York, and there again, you painted New York City, the streets, houses, factories, and portraits. Why in a world of abstract painting, of conceptual painting, of that kind of non-figurative paintings, you decided to be only a painter?
As you said, I start very young. So when I start painting, I'm self-taught. My mother helped me a bit. She was an illustrator, but that's it. I was studying as a young child piano as a musician. But I secretly loved way more painting than clay piano. And the reason why I was making those small, stupid paintings is because I was really craving for creating certain type of images without thinking too much of the field, the intellectual point of view, etc. I was just a child. But after a while, I understood that I need reality. I paint what I see around my eyes. And also I need certain type of emotional connection with what I see. In order for me to make a painting, I need to step by in front of that subject matter for sometimes years without even thinking of making a painting. It's just becoming a familiar type of an image that suddenly needs to be painted. Yes, we are living in a period of time, apparently, where abstraction or minimalism or certain other type of form of art are more popular in the art scene. But again, we need to be careful about judging those things. We are on the first half of 21st century. And if I look at the past of the history of art, every century is kind of going against the flow of the previous one. It's a natural reaction. So right now, after a century of modernism, obviously, we are getting in this phase of postmodernism, which means a lot of things. It's a big container, quite vague. But I believe in this container, painting representational images is becoming welcome. I see a lot of new generation painters working using tools on that direction, making paintings with figures, with spaces.
How did you learn how to draw and to paint? You went to the academy?
No. I was playing piano. I transferred the method of a piano player for building up my skill. For instance, when you play piano and you are doing a piece and there is a difficult passage, that little frame of passage millions of times until you finally feels effortless, flawless, very flowy. But that's the result of a huge amount of effort, in the other hand. So I transferred that approach in painting. Give you some example. I was trying to, in drawings, I was making a drawing of an apple 20 times, the same apple, stupid composition, but just focusing on trying to build up volume and depth. And then after the drawing, making a small painting, 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 times, 20 times, 30 times. And each time trying to find solution from another angle, a little different point of view, in order to finally break through and able to make something with this apparent effortless.
So you have maestros like Monet or like Cézanne, who were obsessed by a cathedral or by a mountain or by a special garden or something, right? And they repeat and repeat the Les Nymphéas or La Montagne Sainte-Victoire all the time, right? For many different angles and things. So did you learn from this kind of painters? Were you influenced by the Italian old masters and the Italian landscaping that you can see on the back of Mantegna, Raffaello, Cimara Conegliano, Tiziano, you know, on the different Italian landscapes, or nothing of this? Or it just came out by you without reference?
You named the artist I'm actually always thinking about. You met my father, you know how many books he collected and read in his life. And me, as a young child, I had a reaction. I couldn't read anything until basically I stopped living with my father. I realized that after a long time of many years of analysis, my first book read with pleasure was at the age of 18, when my parents left the big apartment in Parioli and I sub-rented to a lot of friends of mine from the first year of university. 20,000 books of this huge collection of books of my father were books of art. So instead of reading, I was looking at those images all the time, compulsively. And that was my training, my intellectual training, I would say, in building up my knowledge in paintings and pleasure in melting on observing those paintings in reproductions. It's funny because the first time I saw a big retrospective of Cézanne in Switzerland, the Butlers, a huge, very beautiful, it was in Basel. I was a little bit disappointed by the colors, since I was so used to the reproduction colors on the books of art of my father's library. But this is the way I become a painter.
But you have some painters, some artists of reference in your mind?
First one is Cézanne. He's also a self-taught. And considering the field, the battlefield Cézanne was working around, it was quite awkward and rough because, again, he was a self-taught. Compare him with the salon artist at the same period of time. Because of that, he gave me a lot of hope. And these small strokes or diagonal on one way does sometimes in certain Apple paintings were really for me to help me in find some little strategy as a young teenager.
And other painters that you watched, that touched you, that influenced you?
Italian Renaissance, you named it, especially Masaccio. The Santa Trinita in Florence is like, for me, a textbook. That linear perspective, proportions, Italian Renaissance is very important for me. To me, seems like history of art since that moment, that Masaccio painting, over the centuries, start having two types of schools. One, we can still call it Italian school, and the other one, Flemish school, which is done by a completely different type of strategy. Patchworks, detail after detail, the Flemish painters are building, constructing the composition and the way they paint. While Italian painters, they start from big masses, from the general, and then slowly they go to detail. It's a different type of purpose. For an Italian painter like Masaccio, you get into the room in the big church and you need to appreciate the big altarpiece from far away, like a bullet shooting in your eyes in 1 second. Flemish painters instead are, at the beginning, the same period of time, are done for way smaller spaces with lower ceilings, and the commissioners were important upper-class people, merchants, and people like that. So they need to somehow underline the quality of what they were selling, like them dress, the quality of the texture of them dress and stuff, details. So painters were really painting a detail near the other one, like a patchwork.
For your portraits, because you have two lines. One is the landscape and the other one is the portrait.
Yeah.
Who are the portraitists that you admire the most? that helped you the
20th
most?
century, I start from 20th century. Egon Schiele, Picasso, Lucien Freud, Francis Bacon. For the 20th century.
And for the old Italian masters? Or the Flemish?
So many. Italian on Italian. I'm thinking about Rembrandt is God to me. Velázquez, Manet, Tiziano, Raffaello. There are so many. It's hard to tell. Too many. Which is a good thing.
So you had this self-education through your father's books and some places where you were in Italy and so on and so forth. But then why did you move to New York? Why did you decide that you should leave Italy and go to New York? Because you went to New York a long time ago.
Yeah.
So you might, because you are Italian, but somehow you are a New Yorker because you spent most of your adult life in New York.
Yes, half of my life, exactly. I'm 52, 26 years in New York and 26 years in Rome.
So why did you move to New York?
Yeah, the thing was, it came from two reasons. One was my ex-wife. She moved from Rome 1 year before me. She wasn't my wife. She was someone I really wanted to be with. Second reason is my ex-dealer, which is an Italian guy with a gallery in Rome, but living in New York and being a dealer in New York. And he was keep saying, come over, this is to me much better for you.
What was his name?
Sandro Manzo, Il Gabbiano in Rome. But we don't work together since so long. I mean, that was, I would say, the first 2-3 years, 96, 97, 98. And then I found an American gallery and then everything changed.
So, but what New York is giving you that you didn't have in Italy, and why did you decide to stay and not to go back?
To make the long story short, I would say energy. For me, is extraordinary, vibrant, cultural energy that you have it here. If you are a painter, I met so many artists here that is unthinkable in Rome. Now I teach once a week since more than 10 years at this place called the New York Academy of Art. It's a school, right? It's a school of art. If I compare the School of Art with the Academy in Rome, makes me cry. Here everything is so strongly taken seriously. The most important artists of United States, not only New York. Sometimes they need to go there and at least doing a big lecture, critique, teaching a course. And they do it with so much passion. At the end of every semester, we go together for a week and we look at the paintings of the students 6 hours a day, doing critique in public rooms with 300 people listening in silence, the students. And the first 3 rows of those seats are teachers from the academy and teacher painters, professional artists invited from abroad. And everybody are talking for 5 minutes, raising the hand, regarding the students' work. And then there is a debate. Everything is so intense, so serious. In Rome, you are lucky if the school is open on Friday.
What did change in your art over
A lot, of course, as a domino effect, from the quality of the light of this sky and the water of the city, from the amount of amazing shows I was able to see in the most important museum and gallery of the best art, from meeting important painters, artists, musicians, writers, my mind blew it, for sure.
And is the quality of your paintings better? I mean, in the sense that you are a self-made man, right? A self-made artist. Are you improving in your capacity to handle, to make a portrait, for instance? Or
Absolutely.
you have the same, or you are the same as you were before?
No, you keep improving. It's a difficult task. It's very physical. It's very also technical. The way I paint today compared to the way I was making paintings 20 years ago, 30 years ago, I'm another painter. I'm another person. Yes. And I hope I can say that in another 20, if I'm still alive, in another 20 years, still improving. That's the key. And that's why every time I make a new painting, I try different strategies.
But many portraits or many painters in the modern times, they came from photography. You are only painting. How can you make a portrait? What is the difference between a picture and a portrait? What do you try to find in your model, in the person you portray?
First of all, if I understood your question, what's the difference in having a painting coming from a photo than a photo itself? One possible question. The other question, what's the difference between a painting coming from a photo or coming from life? Well, the second question I will answer easily. I don't think paintings are coming from every source is welcome. It's not about that. Everything is not coming from the source. It's not coming from the photo. It's not coming from life. It's coming from your mind. Paintings are always abstract, are a bunch of marks, stains, and lines colored, combined in a piece of cloth, stretched. So the language, the point of reference, the most important point of reference by making this painting I'm doing is related with my imagination, basically, and memory of whatever I see in front of me and memory of the language itself. You relate with paintings done from other people. We are dealing with a language 6, 7, 8 centuries of masterpieces. You cannot avoid them. I don't believe in being naive and just incredibly talented. You need to be aware. It's too much complexity that you are dealing with. So I'm using both in my personal case. I'm using photos and I'm working from life. It depends on the occasion. But again, I'm very flexible because I know what matters the most. Is the fact the painting is itself strong.
You do something that many, many painters did, from the very famous Rembrandt. And many, many painters did that, up to Bacon and Freud or whatever you mentioned, right? Or Picasso, the self-portrait, right? There are lots of self-portraits of Bernardo Siciliano.
Yes.
What is the self-portrait? Is it a narcissist? What do? You look at yourself in the mirror, you take a picture of yourself.
No pictures. For the self-portrait, only the mirror.
What is the self-portrait and why artists have the need to make their self-portrait in many different ways and over the years? Do you love yourself? Do you hate yourself? What is the point?
The best body of work of self-portraits done, in my opinion, in the history of art are those paintings by Rembrandt, right? I think he made something like 160 paintings, more than 200 drawings, and the same amount of etchings over the entire his life. And if you think about it, the reason why he was doing that, the first urge, the real reason, the first one, the real kick, is coming from training, basically. He needs to train himself. He's going to get a big commission for a public place, and the paintings needs to be in costume, is a special maybe subject matter from the Bible. And guess what? He does few self-portraits dressed up like that to see how does it look like, how is going to be the feel of it for the eventually big painting he's going to make for the big commission. Okay, for me, similar. I'm painting myself every here and there to train myself. Working from life is very challenging. Painting yourself from the mirror is double challenging because the capacity of it's very hard for us to really see our features properly without emotion, with some distance from our emotions. So it's basically training. That's why it's done from life.
Is there a difference between self-portrait and portrait?
It's huge difference. It's completely another game. As I said, we think we know how do we look like, but we actually don't. Did you ever saw yourself in a video walking from your back? You will be surprised, or listening your voice recorded. It's always a little bit weird and disappointing because we really don't know the way we move. And we really don't know the way we sound. We know the other people sound and move because we see them all the time.
Therefore, it's easier to make the portrait of someone else.
Absolutely. There is a sort of a detach. When you are in front of yourself, you are very emotionally involved. So you need to first cut that emotion and be mean with your vanity.
When you do the portrait of someone, right, whoever it is, for the first time,
yes,
do you think you understand who this person is?
I need to jump out from there. If I start thinking I'm painting his cheekbone, I'm painting his lips, I'm painting his nose, doesn't look like him, I'm making wrong thoughts. I need to be nasty with those type of thoughts. Less I am having emotional feelings to the person, better it is. So I need to really pretend that's not even a person. It's a bunch of stain and marks on canvas, colorful.
Even if you paint a woman that you love?
Absolutely. Even more. More the emotions are kicking in, more you need to be tough about it and cut them out.
And what about the landscape? Why do you paint cities, buildings?
One, I like to paint space, the depth, this atmosphere, depth. Two, is coming from training. It's much easier to paint something squarish than something round. It's hard to explain you how come, but trust me on this. It's more difficult, way more difficult to paint an apple than a building.
But were you very attracted by the city of New York more than you were?
Yes, there is also. I paint what I love. But then when I start the painting, I need to pretend that love is not there. And I suddenly need to be a beast and feisty and mean with that subject matter. Otherwise, I'm going to be sentimental.
So you try to fight against your emotions?
Yes. More than fight against emotion, when I am working on the painting and trying to focus on the technical aspect of the way I'm working on this painting. So I need to forget the emotions for a little bit.
And do you work quickly or do you work slowly? And do you do a lot of drawings before you start a painting or you just start the painting?
Depends. I used to be very organized like that when I was younger. It was really a structure, a pattern, always followed. Today I'm way more random. Also, today I paint at the same time multiple stuff that I jump from one painting to the other, very different from each other. I have in my studio 20 paintings open that needs to be done. And I'm okay with that. So I guess I'm getting slower because when I'm on the painting, when I'm working on that painting, I'm very fast. That day, it's like compulsive. But then I put the painting on the side for a while, maybe few weeks, few days, few months, few years, until I know what to do.
You said that somehow in the new generations, there are many more artists of many more kind and countries and ethnics, and the world of artists is much larger today, and paintings are coming partly back into the art world. Therefore, you feel less lonely than you did at the beginning. Is it a more interesting and easy period for you?
Well, maybe you touched the point of why I teach. Finally, I am surrounded by young artists coming from everywhere. And compared to 20 years ago, trust me, they want to paint. They want to improve. They want to understand the techniques. It's quite amazing. Yes, most of them, they don't know that much about paintings. So the risk of illustration is always near. And that's why I'm there, trying to explain them what's the big difference between illustration and paintings.
It looks like there are no movements anymore. I mean, in a way, Cézanne, Van Gogh, Renoir, Manet, and so on, Monet, they belong to the so-called Impressionists. Then we have others, and then we have Fauve, and then we have Cubist, and so on and so forth, until pop art and arte povera. And so. Now there is nothing like that. There's no a group of artists or certain kind of artists in a particular movement. Is it difficult to be alone, to be lonely? How do you position yourself vis-a-vis the market today?
With market, yes, it's difficult because you are one little thing in an ocean. Related with my inspiration is such a relief. So I can really paint whatever I want without explaining and without being apologetic about it. So we are, again, 21st century. Ideology are dead. Today is way more related with day by day and being grounded with your needs. And I like that. I really like that. Also, I paint talking with when I paint, I'm kind of conversing with those big masters from the past, right? This is my way to talk to them and pray to them. I'm not a believer, but I believe in painters. So I talk to them. I ask them questions all the time. So this is my approach. It's very, if you want to call it, pragmatical.
What is interesting is that you stopped, or maybe you didn't, I don't know, but at least professionally, you stopped the idea to be a pianist or composer or musician. You never stopped to be a tennis player. Why you never paint tennis?
Well, one painting is titled Tennis Player, and is a crucifixion of a guy crucified. And that guy is a tennis player who used to beat me all the time. That was my revenge. I crucified him in my studio.
Yeah, but you don't paint a tennis court. You don't paint.
It's hard. It's very difficult to find. I would love to tell you the truth. You know, we see all the time in TV those tournaments, and the screen of the TV, it's there. So you need to get out from it and find something completely unexpected. That's not easy.
It's strange because there are many kind of artists, from Giorgio Bassani, the writer, to Ezra Pound, the poet, and so on and so forth, who played tennis, where tennis is important in their life. Is tennis important in your life?
Tennis is extremely important.
Why?
First of all, I'll tell you how important it is in the daily basis. If I don't play, after going out and having dinner with friends and stuff, I need to see people every night because I work in my studio, either with a model or alone. So I need to be a little bit social afterwards. I come back home and maybe it's late. So I've started reading books. I always turn off the TV, even without a sound, on tennis channel. It's there as a background. Needs to be somehow open. And I need to see with the back of my eyes this ball going back and forth to the net.
When you look at the final of Roland Garros or of Wimbledon or something like that, and you see these two big champions playing, do you have the same feeling that you have vis-a-vis a portrait of Lucian Freud or a portrait of Rembrandt?
No, it's another part of my brain. It's still pleasure, but it's completely different part of my brain.
I wouldn't say
I cannot locate it well, but it's different.
I wasn't thinking of pleasure. I was thinking of jealousy, of envy. Do you sometimes envy the great craftsmanship, the great capacity, the genius that makes someone a champion vis-a-vis a good player?
Yes, in both cases, then it becomes equal. I'm very competitive, but in a positive way. I don't feel frustrated. When I see something outstanding related with paintings or related with tennis, I try to copy as much as I can by training. I believe in training. Training is the key. That is coming from piano training. I understood a long time ago that if you train yourself, you can achieve some results. So I trained and I'm training myself as a professional player. And whenever I can, I train myself as a Sunday professional painter. And when I can, I train myself as a Sunday player, even though semi-pro level.
You are of the school that you think that talent is to work every day, mostly that.
The most important talent to me is stamina. Lucian Freud, if something is, he had huge stamina. Pablo Picasso, huge stamina. They were unstoppable. They were painting all day, all the time.
And you're doing the same?
Yes.
And you have a lot of discipline?
I wake up every day the same 7:30. I am in the studio at 9 o'clock. I work from 9 till noon. Then I go back home. I take a little break for a bite. I come back here, 1:45, and I stop working at 6. That's my schedule every day. Then I go to the gym.
Why do you stop at 6?
I'm exhausted.
But you never paint at night or during the night, or?
It's very rarely. I don't like it.
And do you have a sketchbook with you in your pocket and a pencil, or you don't?
When I was younger, yes. Now I like the break. I need to be fresh and clean. When I go back to the after dinner, come back home, turn off the TV, read a book, and then my iPad, very important. I took a picture of the painting I was doing during the day, and I look at it until I fell asleep.
Listen,
I'm compulsively there. I need breaks.
The New York Met 25 years ago, is it the same city or it has changed? Things have changed.
Changed so many times. It changed September 11. It changed by pandemic. It changed. It got wounded.
And are you in love with New York? Is it your city now, or you never have nostalgia
of Rome? I can't live anywhere else.
You don't have nostalgias of Rome, of Italy? So you are not anymore an Italian artist. You are an American artist. I
wouldn't say that. Also, I go to Italy every year, at least for a month, summertime. I visit my mother, I see some friends, but I don't miss living there. I don't.
Of course, you consider yourself an artist, but you are an Italian artist, or you became an American artist or a New Yorker? I mean, how are you perceived?
The way I paint is very Italian.
What does it mean you're very Italian?
It means the language I'm using, the strategies I'm using are coming from Masaccio, Santa Trinita. It's stained in my DNA. But, there are many American painters I consider that they're using the same Italian strategy. Edward Hopper is so American, yes. But in the other hand, the way structuring and composition is so Italian.
Why?
The emptiness, the relationship between climax, anticlimax, a moment of rest, a moment of action are very Italian. Francis Bacon is very Italian. Look at the background of Francis Bacon and the way he's dealing in balance between foreground, the action on the quietness, and the palette also are so sweet, so amazingly elegant. That's the beauty of Bacon. He's talking about brutality using elegant tools, typically Italians. Freud, instead, is very, very, very German.
What does it mean to be very Italian or very German?
The painters are using that type of, by instinct, that type of strategy. They are structuring the canvas somehow using always a centered type of linear perspective, even if it's not completely developed. Bacon is putting always his figures, is centering the figures. And then the background is simple, is clean. So your eyes are going immediately to the core of the energy of the painting. In Freud, I go back to Flemish art, everything is spotted. He's able to make a painting, double portrait, two men dressed in black, foreground, and the background there is the wall with something on a little painting placed on the wall, and then the window with the whole view of London. And the view is so detailed and is stealing your attention for the amazing, beautiful quality of the face painted on the foreground. That's because, again, he's German. He's placing and constructing his images with like a patchwork, while Bacon, no. Bacon is doing the opposite, general masses and then details.
That's what you said about Flemish and Italian paintings, right?
Yeah.
Do you have many ups and downs in your life, in your work? I mean,
I need to hit the ground and feel incredibly depressed in order to bounce up.
And you never thought, oh, let's go back to music, let's forget.
No. It's part of the game, you know that. When you are younger and unexperienced, you freak out. Then no, that's the normal rhythm.
But what makes you freak out? The fact that you're not pleased with your painting? Sometimes you destroy what you do because you don't like it? Or
I always say to my students, embrace mistakes. Mistakes are welcome. Mistakes are good. Makes you a better painter. We need to make mistakes. So I actually like it. when the painting is very bad and it seems like it's going nowhere, it's the best moment because I can really, really blast it up with no fear. There is nothing to lose. When you start feeling, oh my God, this is so good, there is a risk if I touch, I'm going to ruin it, then you are not a pro anymore. You need to be fearless.
You left Italy and you live alone or with someone, but in New York. Most painters, or most of the painters you quoted, were painting basically portraits of the children, the mother, the wife, the best friend.
Yeah.
What about you?
Same. I paint people I know. My daughter, my friends, wife, ex-wife, girlfriends.
Why? Because you know them better.
I know them better and I see them daily. So it's like Velcro. It's coming to me and staying, and then I can paint.
So you are in a good moment of your life?
Yeah.
And you like teaching?
I like teaching once in a while. I mean, once a week is a perfect balance.
You prefer to play tennis than teaching?
Yeah, I can paint and then I play tennis. I can teach and then I play. But I need to paint 6 days a week and 1 day a week I can teach. Then it's okay. Otherwise,
when you teach, you don't paint.
No.
You work in New York, right? And New York has been, or still is somehow, what Rome has been in 1600, what Paris and Montparnasse have been at the beginning of the 20th century. I mean, it has been the center of the world for art, artists and market and all that. What do you think about American art? Andy Warhol, Lichtenstein, Basquiat, all these artists that are now valued millions of dollars, you know, they are out of this world in their prices. What do you think of these few artists?
So Jeff Koons is not a painter, right? So it's another game. He's probably a great artist, but he's not what I call it a painter. He's an artist. He's dealing with market, he's dealing with other things. It's like more a Baroque type of painter. He's sort of a little industry. I'm less interested because I don't, when I see his paintings at the show at Gagosian, I don't know what to look at. They're like so mechanical. But if you see probably the overall work of art, then everything together makes sense. Doesn't go to my soul like that. I'm more an old-fashioned type of artist. So I like painters easel painters, the painters that work using the easel. I love John Carvin as an American painter alive. Amazing, outstanding artist. I think American painters did in the 20th century incredible things. I didn't talk about it, but de Kooning is one of my favorites, or Jackson Pollock, or Richard Diebenkorn. Yeah, there's Philip Gaston. There are so many great painters. But it's another type of art. It's not paintings. It's like saying, do you like movies? I do like movies, of course, but it's another art. It's another language.
Yeah, but for instance, Lichtenstein and Warhol and Basquiat, are they painters or they are?
Yeah, they are, absolutely, real painters. Yes. Basquiat is a painter, Lichtenstein is a painter, for sure. I wouldn't say Jeff Koons because he never makes his paintings. There is a crew of people that they go with his command. His idea is that one, and then they are very mechanical.
But that's the same in a completely different way for most artists of arte povera, no?
Exactly. In fact, I'm not really there. I mean, right, so I can like it, but it's not my...
Ultimately, what you say is that you like the classic work of a painter. Then what happens in the canvas is something else, right? It can be completely different.
Yeah.
Because obviously Pollock is not doing portraits. And so on and so forth. But still, he is a painter.
Absolute great painter.
And why you never wanted to be abstract?
I feel I am.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Alain Elkann interviews.